the supreme original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. Purport given by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki. The creation is non-different from the Lord, and still he is not in the creation. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4 as follows. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. The impersonal conception of the absolute truth is also a form of the Lord called avyakta murti. Murti means form, but because his impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is the avyakta murti form. And in that inexplicable form of the Lord, the whole creation is resting. Or, in other words, the whole creation is the Lord himself, and the creation is also non-different from him. But simultaneously, he, as the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is aloof from the created manifestation. The impersonalist gives stress to the impersonal form or feature of the Lord and does not believe in the original personality of the Lord. But the Vaishnavas accept the original form of the Lord, of whom the impersonal form is merely one of the features. The impersonal and personal conceptions of the Lord are existing simultaneously, and this fact is clearly described both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in other Vedic scriptures. Inconceivable to human intelligence, the idea must simply be accepted on the authority of the scriptures, and it can only be practically realized by the progress of devotional service unto the Lord, and never by mental speculation or inductive logic. The impersonalists depend more or less on inductive logic, and therefore they always remain in darkness about the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Their conception of Krishna is not clear, although everything is clearly mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. A poor fund of knowledge cannot comprehend the existence of an original personal form of the Lord when he is expanded in everything. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. The original personality of Godhead, Adyaha, Govinda, expands himself as the Mahavishnu incarnation and rests in the causal ocean which he himself creates. The Brahma Samhita confirms this as follows. Ya karanarnava jale bhajati sma yoga nidra mananta jagadanda sharomakupaha adhara shaktim avyalambya param swamurtim govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahmaji says in his Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who lies down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the pores of hair on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. So this Mahavishnu is the first incarnation in the creation, and from him all the universes are generated, and all material manifestations are produced, one after another. The causal ocean is created by the Lord as the Mahat Tattva, as a cloud in the spiritual sky, and is only a part of his different manifestations. The spiritual sky is an expansion of his personal rays, and he is the Mahat Tattva cloud also. He lies down and generates the universes by his breathing. And again, by entering into each universe as Garbhadakshay Vishnu, he creates Brahma, Shiva, and many other demigods for maintenance of the universe, and again absorbs the whole thing into his person as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.7. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaya punastani kalpa do vishtijamyaham. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa, or the duration of the life of Brahma, is ended, then all the created manifestations enter into my prakriti, or energy. And again, when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. The conclusion is that these are all but displays of the Lord's inconceivable personal energies, of which no one can have any full information. This point we have already discussed. Saeshadya Purushaha Kalpe Kalpe Srijatyajaha Atmatmanyatmanatmanam Sasam Yachati Paticha. The Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Bacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnanebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so we are continuing with these wonderful verses on the Purusha Sukta, confirmed. We had wonderful last couple of classes on these verses from Bhagadatta Prabhu and then Rasananda Prabhu. They actually mentioned a lot of points which I probably would have talked about, but they already did so. Please, I ask for your blessings that I can say something to render service to this verse, and also forgive any mistakes that I may cause. These verses are quite technical as well. They're very tattva heavy, I have to say. But it's good. It forces you to kind of really get into the tattva. As Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj says, Siddhanta bolyachite nakara alash. One should not be lazy when it comes to studying the Siddhanta, because what it does is it helps to strengthen the mind in our spiritual life. Sudhradi manas. Right? So, there's quite a few points here. I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of them. But one of the key things that's coming out from here is that we see in many philosophical doctrines that there's an understanding that either divinity, the divine, the supreme divine, is either formless or has form. And usually there's a lot of dispute between what is what, between different philosophical doctrines. But we understand from the Vaishnava doctrine that the Lord has both form and is formless. The Sri Ishapanishad also talks about that. So in the third canto later on, in the next canto, when Kapila Muni will appear, Kapila Muni will actually talk about this to his mother, Devahuti. And Prabhupada very clearly clarifies that there are four main understandings when it comes to the Lord's quality in terms of his form and formlessness, and especially in his relation to us. So one is the doctrine which was given by Vishnu Swami, the Acharya Vishnu Swami in the Lord Shiva Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, which is called Suddha Advaita. Suddha Advaita, as the name suggests, means purified oneness. So even within Vaishnava doctrine, some Vaishnava philosophies tilt towards the oneness aspect, and some will go towards the different aspect, the separation between us and the Lord. You know, this is always a constant thing. Are we the same as the Lord? Are we different from the Lord? So Vishnu Swami was very much talking about Suddha Advaita. Then you've got Nimbarkacharya, and he came with the philosophical doctrine of Dvaita Advaita. That is simultaneous one and difference. So this is quite similar to what Mahaprabhu also gave to us. Then we have Ramanujacharya, who talked about Vishista Advaita. That is only oneness. So again, like very much emphasizing the sameness, right? Between the Lord, the Brahman, us, right? The Jiva, the Prakriti, the Brahman. And then, of course, you've got Madhvacharya, who emphasized Dvaita, which is duality. There's always a separation between us and them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu obviously was very revolutionary. He amalgamated all these together and said that actually it's not a conflict here. We are simultaneously one and different from the Lord. And so we know from the verses, Prabhupada goes on to say various times that we are qualitatively one with the Lord, but quantitatively we are a lot smaller as well. On that note, actually, these different conceptions of the Lord that Mahaprabhu amalgamated, he also took key things from each of these four acharyas to bring about this Gaudiyavation of Siddhanta, this Krishna conscious philosophy. So from these four acharyas, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vishnu Swami, and Nimbarkacharya, he took two key philosophical points from each one of them. So, and I'm sure some of you are probably familiar with this. From Madhvacharya, do we know what are the things that he took? Key things. Yes, Srinivas Prabhu? Yes, absolutely. Complete defeat of Mayavad philosophy and service to the deity of Krishna, accepting the deity of Krishna as eternal spiritual being. We keep, it's mentioned, right? It's Krishna who's actually on the altar directly. This is coming from Madhvacharya. From Ramanujacharya, does he know what are the two concepts that Mahaprabhu took? Yes, concept of bhakti, ananya bhakti, that is unpolluted by karma and gyan. Also, service to the devotees, right? This whole Vaishnav Seva, all these things that we learn, there's a background behind them. Then from Vishnu Swami, any ideas what Vishnu Swami gave? Yes, of course you know. Yes. Brilliant, yeah. And sentiment of exclusive dependence on Krishna and Raga Bhakti. Raga Bhakti means spontaneous devotion with deep emotional sentiment, deep emotional attachment. And then finally we have Nimbarkacharya. Any thoughts? I mean, obviously, go on, Prabhuji. Yes, high esteem for the gopis' love for Krishna. Exclusive shelter Radharani, perfect, yes. These are the things that Mahaprabhu took. And this gopis' love for Krishna is very important because we know that they are the example that we are trying to emulate in terms of developing love for Krishna. There are four aspects to the Gaudiyavation of Siddhanta. One is the soul's nature is to give love and be loved. That's one thing. Second thing is, what's the object of that love? So, any ideas? We know that the soul has an innate need to love. Where do we give that love? Yes, Prabhuji. To who? Who's the object of that love? Krishna, yeah. Yeah, to Krishna. And then, and who are the examples that we learn from to develop that love? We just mentioned it now. The gopis, right? The gopis. And do we know what do we use to help us develop that love? Acharyas is there, but there's something specific that Mahaprabhu mentions. It's part of the emperor verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's Bhagavatam, right? So, love is the goal. Object of love is Krishna. Example of that love is the gopis, and the way we develop that love is the Srimad Bhagavatam. These are like four key aspects. If anyone asks us in a nutshell, what is the Krishna conscious philosophy? What is our Siddhanta? Then one can say these are the four main things, these four steps. Okay, so, but one thing we understand as well from all of this is what Prabhupada mentioned again and again, is that there's lots of wonderful things being spoken about in this verse, about the creation, and the whole magnitude of the creation with, Mahavishnu coming and then Garbhadaksha Vishnu. And, from Mahavishnu, I'm sure you all probably are learning about the cosmos and the creation and how all the different universes are coming from his pores. And then Garbhadaksha Vishnu expands, goes into each of these, little universes, and then, brings about, our individual universes and things. One thing we understand is that one cannot understand this through our intellectual capacity. Okay? It's not possible. In fact, Prabhupada says in the last paragraph, the conclusion is that these are all but displays of the Lord's inconceivable energies, which no one can have any full information. Right? So these verses are there just to kind of show to us the greatness of Krishna. Once Prabhupada said that, God is great. No, there was a devotee who said to Prabhupada, there's a famous saying, God is great. And Prabhupada said, yes, he is. You don't know how great he is, actually. We have no idea. Okay? It says, but at the same time, we understand that even this material universe itself is so big, so vast. In the Ishopanishad, it says that even if one travels at the speed of mind, one still would not be able to reach the further outreaches of this universe. You can imagine how fast the mind is. Like physically, the fastest thing is the speed of light, right? In that we learn in physics and things. But the mind is even faster. Like 1 minute I'm here in the Bhaktivedanta Manor and instantly my mind can just go to Australia right now. Just an example. I could be in Australia right now, right? This is how fast the mind goes. Even if you go at that speed, you still will not be able to understand this universe. We cannot understand the universe through our own, what is called, said here, inductive logic, trying to figuring it out for ourselves. And there's a reason for that. Because there are 4 defects that all living entities suffer from. Does anyone know what these defects may be? Maybe we can raise some... Yes, Sagar? Okay, imperfect senses. Yes, Achyuta Prabhu? Yes, tendency to commit mistakes. Cheating propensity, thank you Prabhu. And? Subject to illusion. Yeah, all living entities are subject to illusion. Even Lord Brahma, who's very much featuring prominently in these verses, and we'll come to Brahma in a soon, and because he's got wonderful leelas, obviously relating to these topics. Okay, every single person, as we know, in the Mahatattva is a living entity, conditioned soul, is subject to this. Okay, and the Mahatattva itself has got certain limitations to it, despite the fact that we still can't figure it out. In the Bhagavad Gita it says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punar janma na vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places where there's misery, there's repeated birth and death. But obviously those who then obviously go to Krishna's abode, O son of Kunti, they'll never take birth again. Krishna is saying this to Arjuna. One who attains to my abode never takes birth again. So once, and this is a class from Sri Dhamma Prabhu in 2013, he mentioned a quote by Prabhupada, which is quite a strong quote. He said that Prabhupada said the Western civilization is built on a mistake. So wherever you add to it is going to be wrong. If the root is wrong, obviously when I say Western, I mean, the modern civilization, you can apply it to everywhere these days. But, the civilization, if it's built on a philosophy that I'm in control and then I can figure out what's going on in this universe through my intellect, then you're off on the wrong foot. So whatever you do on top of that is obviously then going to also be wrong in the long run, no matter what kind of ideas or philosophies or things that you bring about. So really what we have to do is realign our paradigm of how we live and develop a state of oneness with Krishna. In the Ishopanishad, it's called ekatvam, oneness, right? In other words, nirvana. We have to attain nirvana. Okay, now you're probably getting worried. Okay, is he talking Mayavad philosophy here? No, I'm not. I'll clarify this. So in the 3rd canto, chapter 28, between verses 36 to 38, Kapila Dev is talking about how one should be completely in a state of oneness with Krishna, where one's mind is completely geared towards satisfying Krishna. in line with trying to serve Krishna. And Prabhupada says this is actual nirvana, nirvana mukti. Nirvana mukti means not just that you elevate yourself, break free from the cycle of birth and death and from happiness and distress, but it actually means that you come to a stage where you are in a loving relationship with Krishna and your whole body, mind, soul is geared towards satisfying Krishna. Then you're in a state of oneness. So that's actual nirvana, not the Buddhist doctrine that comes later. And it says that when you're in that state, then Krishna fully takes charge of you. He takes charge of your mind, your body. The analogy is given that you're like a drunk person. You know, when a drunk person walks around, he's not aware of what's going on around him. So a pure devotee who's complete in state of oneness with Krishna, he's not aware about the material comings and goings. It doesn't bother him anymore. He's completely fixed in Krishna. So it's about allowing Krishna to take charge. Now this comes to the next point here though. We understand that Krishna's got inconceivable energies. We can't figure it out by ourselves. So we take shelter of Krishna. Once you take shelter of Krishna, does it mean that one's life will become hunky-dory? No? No, why not? Shouldn't that be the case? He's the Supreme Personality. So when you come to him, then he'll make things perfect for you. Yes, Prajana Prabhu? Okay, so Prajana Prabhu is saying that obviously it's one thing is when you go to Krishna, you also have to build a relationship with the Guru, and through that you can then obviously develop that perfection. Yeah, that's a very good point. Another thing we have to understand is that Krishna is inconceivable, and that means that even when he relates with us, we can't always try and second guess Krishna or have expectation of what he should do with us. Krishna will do what he wants with us. Right? You know the saying, right? He won't just give you what you want, he'll give you what you need. Example in case, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is way more advanced than us spiritually. Right? He's one of the most powerful spiritual personalities in history. We are part of his sampradaya. When Lord Brahma, and this is something we all relate to when we're doing service for Krishna, when we're practicing Krishna consciousness, when Lord Brahma was creating the universe, firstly, he was in a state of suffering. He was bewildered. And that's why then, when he came out of the lotus stem at the dawn of creation. And he was complete, didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what to do. So then he starts to do tapa, right? He starts to meditate on Krishna. Now, it doesn't mean that once he meditates on Krishna and Krishna comes to him, and then Krishna gives him this knowledge, right, through which he starts creating the universe, that it all becomes perfect after that. Similarly, when we come to Krishna consciousness, when we first come across Prabhupada's books and we come to Krishna consciousness, doesn't mean that everything's going to suddenly be perfect. Purification has to happen. Lessons have to be learnt. When Brahma was creating the creation, he created his first progeny and he gave them an instruction. Firstly, do we know who the first progeny were and what's the instruction? 4 Kumaras. What did he ask them? Progenate, create progeny. What did they say? No, right? So first lesson Brahma learned. When in the material world, whatever you do, it's not that people are going to listen to you. When you're in devotional service and you're dealing with devotees, we still have our own minds. It doesn't mean devotees will always listen to you. That's first thing. I'm sure all of us who serve with each other can probably relate to that. So that's first thing. Then after that, he creates Lord Shiva. Then Lord Shiva creates progeny, right? Rudra, he creates progeny. Doesn't even know what that progeny did. They started to destroy the whole universe. So one thing is you create progeny, you create something, you have your followers. It doesn't mean the followers are gonna listen to you all the time. You have to be prepared for that. This is like leadership lessons here from Bhagavatam, right? Second thing is when you do create followers, even if you have the best intentions and you have good character, there is a possibility they may turn on you. They may revolt on you and do opposite to what you want them to do. Okay? So that's another thing. Then Brahma creates more progeny. The Manaputras. The sons that came from his mind. Doesn't even know what his instruction to them was. It's the same thing. Create progeny. What did they say? No. So again, he creates, they refuse. He creates again, they do against his wishes. Jai Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda ki. Then he creates again, they create progeny. No, and then he creates again and they refuse. So you can see that when you are even under Krishna's shelter and doing Krishna's service, it's not always going to go according to plan. Okay? Then it carries on like this. Okay? Then obviously what happens as Brahma is busy creating the universe, he himself is dealing very much heavily with the modes of passion, the modes of ignorance. And just like that, when we're in devotional service, we may also be in the mode of passion and ignorance. And then what happens? In mode of passion, he creates this being called Vak. And then doesn't he know what happened? He started running after her. He fell down from his service. Similarly, in devotional life, we have to have that balance in how we're doing things for Krishna. If we're too much under the mode of passion and ignorance, we may also fall down. Okay? And then, even after doing all of that, he then, once he does create the universe and things like that, another thing that we find that you can't please everyone. Once Brahma created everything and created all the bodies, then he received sharp criticism. Doesn't even know from who. The gopis. Why? What did they say? Yeah, Brahma, what have you done? What kind of nonsense creation have you given to us, these bodies that you put us into? You've given us these eyes and they blink. We can't even see Krishna uninterruptedly because our eyes are constantly blinking. Right? So when you're doing Krishna's service and you take on responsibility for Krishna, accept things won't always go according to plan. Accept that you won't have all the resources to start off with, so you have to actually do tapasya to get the resources. And when you do get the resources, it doesn't mean that the resources will always follow what you want them to do, or sometimes they'll even go against what you want them to do. And then once you do create things in the right way, still you'll get criticism for it. And still, despite all of that, you still have to carry on with your devotional service. So this is again part of Krishna's inconceivable energy, how he works with us, how he does what he wants to do with us. Okay? So, like this. And then, of course, there's another thing that happened as well. Sometimes, when we're doing devotional service, especially the more we get responsibility in Krishna's mission, and one thing Prabhupada did say, take responsibility for the mission. Right? Prabhupada said, find your mission in Krishna's service and take responsibility for it. Even when you do that, there is also a pitfall that you may identify too much with your position and your responsibility. Brahma also had that as well. He identified too much with his position where he ended up causing an offense against Krishna. So, does he know this pastime? Rasananda Prabhu did mention it on Friday. Very famous pastime. It's from the Krishna book. Yes, Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? He took the cowherd boys and the calves. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that everything that is, all the incidents that happen in the Krishna pastimes, there's also deeper underlying reasons behind it. And they represent things. Brahma stealing the cowherd boys and calves represents a faulty quality, like an anartha. Does anyone like to maybe think or raise what it could be? Yes. So what Prajna Prabhu is saying is that he couldn't conceive that this personality, this little blue boy, could be the supreme person of Godhead, so he wanted to test him. So this in itself shows an anartha. And again, what Prabhupada is saying here, you cannot understand Krishna's inconceivable energies through testing by yourself, trying to figure him out by yourself, which is what Brahma did. Why did Brahma do it? Because he was in such a powerful position. The anartha that Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that he represented here was mental speculation and resulting from success in fruitive activity. When we become very successful materially, then what happens? We then start to think that we can, figure things out, for ourselves, without having that humility to understand that there are certain things I can't, I have to accept and let it be revealed to me. So Brahma made that mistake, and obviously then he got humbled. After being humbled, then he repented, and then he paid full. He said in the Krishna book, he fell down like a danda. And that's where this concept of dandavat comes from. You know, when we do dandavat obeisances, falling down like a danda, that's where it comes from, because it said he literally fell down like a danda out of humility. Of course, saying all that though, we're looking at examples of Brahma's bewilderment. We're not here to judge Lord Brahma. Raj Bihari Prabhu made a really good point. When these great sages or great saintly personalities, when they get bewildered, something great comes out of it. When we get bewildered, it just results in depression, right? But when a great personality gets bewildered, it's because of Krishna's plan and something great comes out of it. For example, Vyastev gets bewildered, but from it, we get Srimad Bhagavatam. Arjun gets bewildered, but from it, we get the Bhagavad Gita, right? Then we have Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma gets bewildered, but from that, we get him as Haridas Thakur. So when a great personality gets bewildered, great things happen. So again, it's not that we're there to judge them or look, they messed up here and this and that. It's a different whole thing there. So we understand from this as well that too much also success in bhakti, we have to be careful, which is why the other day I was mentioning in one of the sessions that when Hanuman, when he jumped, this is in Ramayana, right? When Hanuman jumped from India to Lanka, for those who know the pastime of Ramayana, there are various objects that came out of the ocean. Does anyone know what is the first object that came out of the ocean? Was that, someone said it, I think? Yes, a gold mountain called Mainak. And this Mainak says to Hanuman, whatever he said, Bajrang Bali, Pavanaputra, Vayu Suta, you are on this wonderful mission. Please sit on my back. Take some rest before you go and, go to deliver Lord Ram's message. And what was Hanuman's response? Anyone knows? He doesn't have time. I'm fixed on my mission. I do not have time to rest here. And Radhanath Maharaj, he mentions beautiful purport to this. He says that this Mainak, all of us will also have Mainaks in our life. The gold mountain that represents the puja, love, pratishta, the profit, adoration, distinction that may come in our lives, the responsibility, the prestige. And if we're not careful, we may sit on that gold mountain, the Mainak, in our devotional paths, and end up just sitting there and chilling and forget about our mission, which is to go to Bhakti, Sita Devi, right? So similarly, Hanuman also displayed that. So all these great personalities, they have their Mainak moments in their life. And the key is then how they deal with it. Okay? Again, it's all part of Krishna's lessons. It may seem inconceivable at first, but there's lessons that we can learn from it as well. Okay? And one of the key things we have to understand here is that, and this is also Krishna's inconceivability, is that he does this all for our good. When he bewilders us, when he teaches us lessons, when he humbles us, when he makes things not always go according to plan, it's all good. You have to trust in Krishna's plans, know that he's always got your back. In fact, Krishna is the only one that's ever going to really have your back in life. Honestly. That's why Krishna's called Achyuta, right? Infallible, right? Because Prabhupada actually says he never fails. This is in chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, around verse 20. Yes, verse 20. Or verse 21 to 22, sorry. Not verse 20, verse 21 to 22. In the purport, Prabhupada says, Krishna never fails in his affection for his devotees. Wherever he is, he will never ever let you down. No matter what you're going through in life, and we know that devotees, even when they practice Krishna consciousness, you will go through issues in your life. You will go through problems, personal problems, maybe mental problems, family problems, whatever it is, you will go through it. That's also part of Krishna's affection. He's clearing you. He's clearing the karma. It's a cathartic process. He's getting rid of all the unwanted things in the heart, right? Ride with it and always keep yourself anchored in Krishna's shelter, even if you cannot conceive what's going on by yourself. Brahma, at the end of the day, all said and done, he proved himself. Because despite his mistakes, despite trying to test Krishna, trying to that's the word I was looking for, second guess Krishna, at the end of it, he succeeded because deep down he was a devotee, and no matter what was going on, he always kept himself anchored in Krishna. Which is why he himself said to Krishna that out of repentance for the offense I caused you, let me take birth. And let me take birth with no power, prestige, status, nothing. So then Krishna made him take birth as Haridas Thakur, right? Born in a low-class family with no prestige, to the point where even like the Brahmanas in Gordesh, in Gaur Leela, they wouldn't allow him to come into their gatherings, right? Because he's considered not worthy. But it didn't matter for him, because even without any of the responsibilities that he had as Brahma, he was completely fixed in Krishna, chanting the names, Namacharya, right? Always focused on the holy names of Krishna. And what does Krishna do as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He ends up going to him. He ends up serving Haridas Thakur. He nurses him. At the end of his life, when Haridas Thakur in his last days, who's looking after him? It was Krishna. Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? This is Krishna's Bhakta Vatsal Bhav. If you try to second guess Krishna and try to conceive of his energies with your mental capacity, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you just open yourself up and let Krishna take over, then Krishna will make his inconceivable potencies conceivable to you, and he himself will actually put himself in a position where he ends up serving you, caring for you, just like he did with Arjun. He ends up serving Arjun. Arjun tells him, Sena yor bayo madhye, right? Take me to the middle of the battlefield. Krishna does that. So this is Krishna's beauty, that, when you don't try to figure him out by yourself, using your own power, when you're not trying to dominate Krishna, because it's a form of domination. When you're trying to figure something out with your own power, trying to figure them out, it's basically you trying to impose your ego on them to try and figure them out. But when you don't try and do that, and just open yourself to the process and surrender to Krishna, let Krishna take over, then beautiful things can happen. Okay, so I'll finish off here. There were some other things, but we don't have time. Is there any questions or comments or anything? Yes, Srinivas Prabhu?
Which other things? Maybe you can summarize. You said there were other things.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, well, sure. Okay. Actually, I'll just summarize very, very, very quickly. So the whole point of the class was that, as Prabhupada said, we cannot conceive of Krishna's energies, his personal energies. We will never have full information of it. But if we surrender to Krishna, he will make himself known to us accordingly. And the main thing for us is how we anchor ourselves in Krishna, regardless of what goes around us materially. Whatever ups and downs we go through. For example, and even within devotional service, we have to be anchored in Krishna's holy names, no matter what kind of service we get. Brahma was anchored in Krishna and his holy names. So even when Brahma got demoted from being Brahma to Haridas Thakur, he was still fixed in ecstasy on Krishna. Another example is Priyavrat, right? Priyavrat was tasked with creating progeny. He did it, but he wasn't attached to it. He was ready to go, actually. He was ready to renounce. Kardama Muni, another example, someone completely anchored in Krishna, right? After he created 9 daughters with Devahuti and creating this amazing spaceship with like beautiful palaces and lakes and waterfalls and everything. It could be easy for anyone to get completely bewildered by that, that could relate to us, Let's say Krishna allows us to head up some amazing project and he starts growing and becomes massive. It would be hard for us to kind of step away from it, because, especially when you invested so much in it. But Kadamun is ready to go. Devahutya had to tell him that, no, I also want a son. And then after the son, then he went, right? So the whole point is that even within devotional service, what's our anchor? Is it our service? We know that, yes, we should take shelter of service, we should take shelter of the devotees, the community, and all these things. But when the bottom of it is this, though. What's our actual anchor? It's Krishna and his holy names. That's actually what's really going to take us through all the ups and downs of devotional life. And there will be many ups and downs, no doubt. Yeah. Any other? Yes, Yadurani Mataji.
How do we... I think I'm loud enough.
No, it's for the online.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a most wonderful class. The question I have is, how do we know when we have just let go and allowing Krishna to take over? Because I find that, we're doing things, but are we doing it because we want to do it, or are we doing it because Krishna's making that happen?
In the initial stages, it'll be hard for us to decide that for ourselves. That's why we need Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. You need the association of devotees to guide you, to let you know what you should be involved in. Sometimes we have examples, right, of devotees who are very talented in a certain respect, and the spiritual master tells them, no, I don't want you to do this. There's a case, right, of this in Chopati. I know this devotee, so I can share it without saying his name, but he was actually a very accomplished dancer, like an Indian classical dancer. And he joined the Brahmacharya ashram, and Radhanath Maharaj actually told him, and he wanted to use it in Krishna's service. It would have been good in one sense. Radhanath Maharaj said, no, I don't want you to do that. And there may be reasons for that. Maybe because that could be an attachment that can actually, in the long run, take him away from the devotional path. He might get a lot of, praise or accolades or whatever it is that came from it, So that it's about the Guru's discretion of what he feels is good for you. Sometimes the Guru may also look at your talents and then utilize them as well and say, no, use this, dovetail it. So we may not initially know what is the best thing for us because, we're like clouded with the modes and everything. So Guru, Sadhu, Shastra will help us to work out. And as we progress and as we do the service and as we also practice our sadhana, we also get more in tune with who we are and know that, okay, how much I should pursue this. Is this service taking me away from Krishna, or is it helping me get close to Krishna? Like in Nectar Instruction, text 2, atyahar prayasascha. Just that first line, I think it's, over endeavoring for things that are difficult to obtain. Sometimes we fall into the trap of doing that in devotional life. So is it helping you? Is it make you more thriving in your Krishna consciousness, or is it causing you more stress and taking you away? That's a good indication that whether you should leave something or pursue it. Yeah, this is a nutshell. Charlie?
Hare Krishna. I just want to ask two questions, but one to just clarify something. So, Mahatattva, this is described as just like a cloud in the endless spiritual sky, right? Was it always there? Do we understand? Was it always there? Did Krishna when he create when the spiritual world emanates from him, right? This is my understanding anyway. Was it there with that expansion?
Yeah, that's, again, inconceivable potencies that Prabhupada's talking about. I mean, from what we understand from the scriptures, that the Mahatattva is there. It's part of Krishna's creations, but it's existing there. Along with the spiritual world, the material, that Mahatattva manifestation, it's always there.
So this is leads on to my question. If the Mahatattva is always there, then that Mahatattva gives the soul an opportunity to ward it over to nature. So Krishna, he didn't is him creating this having this Mahatattva, is this not giving giving the soul an opportunity to ward it over? Is this not instilling a natural rebellion in the spirit soul? somehow it provides like, oh, I want to turn away. Like, why is that there then? Like, if I know that it's like, this is why we have free will, because if you force someone to love you, it's not real love like that. But surely if it's not there in the first place, then the opportunity isn't there to ward it over, no?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Again, I see the difficulty here is we're imposing the concept of time on what is a spiritual topic here, because it's like saying, okay, if it wasn't there, then the entities that, the spirit souls would not be interested in it. But the other aspect to that is that there are spirit souls that wanted to have the desire to lord it over, so Krishna provided that for them. It's not that he created it first and the spirit souls are looking at it going, oh, that's good, let me go towards that. It's that the spirit souls had desire for that, and from what we understand from the scripture, of course, we're talking about things that are beyond, at least beyond my purview here, but from what I understand is that the spirit souls wanted to enjoy, independently of Krishna. Krishna didn't want them to go there, but because they wanted to go in that direction, so fine, you want to do it? Okay, you've got a little playpen here, do your thing in there. But know that it's imperfect and you will get frustrated and you will have, then sooner or later I hope that you come back to me, like to put it in a very basic format, yeah. So you know what I mean? Like the Mahatattva, the desires and everything that's going in the Mahatattva, it's not that we can just say, why did Krishna do this? Why did Krishna create it? It was our desires. And then when we even come to the Mahatattva, then life after life, all the different bodies we get and the sufferings and all that, it's not that we can then say to Krishna, well, Krishna, why do you do this for us? It's our desires that made us then go more deeper and deeper from one stage to another. The initial going from spiritual to material, then in the material going to this body, to that body, to that body. It's our desires, and Krishna's been reluctantly fulfilling them for us. Yeah. Achyuta?
Hare Krishna. Can I just add?
The other Achyuta, of course. Yeah.
Can I just add to just a little point? I think this is not the full understanding, but my understanding that we are, to a sense, not Krishna's creation, but a part and parcel of him as jivas, as souls. So, and he gives us choice. So if we don't have choice, then it's kind of by force that we love him, and that's not love. He gives us that choice to love him. So if he doesn't create the alternative option of Mahatattva, the material world, then we're just there because that's the only option we have. Another question was mainly on the time frame of what we can't really conceive, like universal time. But yeah, it's a choice that if we're given that choice, and if we don't have that choice, then it's by force that we have to love him, and that's not love. I think is that. Yeah, it's a bit beside the point, but I thought I'd add that. Sorry.
No, it's a good point, and also I'll just say one more thing on that the creation that we're in right now, it's our desires. Like in Bhagavad Gita, right, is mentioned, right, that the super soul sanctions it, he permits it, but it's based on our desire. We desired this. We desired to be here. So Krishna facilitated it for us. It's not that, It's not that Krishna created it and put us here. We wanted to have this, and Krishna gave us the tools by which we can be here. Yeah. Okay, well, it's we've gone past time, so I think we should adjourn for today until tomorrow morning's class. Granthrat Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai. His Grace Niskincana Caitanya Prabhu ki